Hey everybody, welcome back to An Extrovert Paints. And in this video, we're going to be looking at the Italian Bersaglieri, the new plastic set from Warlord Games. Now this is an unboxing. I haven't done an unboxing at my kitchen table here in quite some time, so it's going to be a little bit of a nostalgia for me. This is kind of like when I first started out, I was doing unboxings at my kitchen table because I didn't have a whole lot of space, and as it turns out, my actual painting desk is so full of miniatures at the moment that I don't have enough space to do it in there. And now I'm back at the kitchen table, so it's kind of come a bit, 360, if you will. I've been waiting for the Italian Bersaglieri for ever since the announcement, actually, that they were going to be coming out with plastic Bersaglieri, so I'm very excited. The miniatures look incredible from the promotional images that Warlord has posted up. And I've actually sat on this box for about a week now. I actually got it before release because some very cheeky eBay sellers were selling them, I think, ahead of the release. I don't think they were supposed to do that, but they did it, and here we are, and I got my box, and I'm very happy. I did remove the plastic wrap around it because I wanted to make sure that all the parts were in there before I did an official unboxing on my channel, because it would be really, really bad if I opened it up and there was an entire sprue missing or something. That'd be very embarrassing. So it never happened to me before, but just to be safe, I'd rather just, double check. Doesn't hurt. This is the back of the box. As you can tell, very, very minuscule information on here. It's just supposed to be in little bites so that, you're not just reading a back of a box, but just very basic information about the Italian Bersaglieri, some information on how to paint up their tropical uniforms, and then a little bit about what this box contains, including the very nifty water slide decal, which very important. Let's talk about that later on in this video, but don't want to miss that because there's some important little oopsies on here that we have to talk about. So let's just go ahead and pop this open. This is one of the base sprues. And then we have the decal sheet, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then our rest of our bases right here. So you do have all the bases to make 30 miniatures. Then you have your leaflet. So this is very, very handy. Let me just put the sprues off to the side here. We'll talk about those in a second. And let me just zoom in a little bit there. My camera's going to shake for about 30 seconds. Well, there we go. So you have your sprue layout here with all of the information that you might want to know. Very, very happy that Warlord seems to have done the research yet again on this kit. There were some complaints that the bodies were reused from the Army and Black Shirt sprue, and I have a feeling that they're probably also going to be reused for the Alpini sprue. And the reason why I say that is the uniforms don't change much, if at all, between these I shouldn't say branches, but between these types of men. Like the Alpini, the big difference is the helmets and the hats, the specific the kind of the mountaineering hats that they have with the feathers, with the single feathers on them. And the same thing with the Bersaglieri as well. Their helmets and sun hats and their fezzes, incidentally, not the same as the black shirt fezzes. They are Bersaglieri fezzes and they're red, not black. They're the main difference between regular Army and Alpini. It's always the helmets with the Italian Army, and that's just economical. I mean, there's no reason for them to have an entirely different uniform. They're performing basically the same function as regular infantry, just slightly more motorized, and that's really the essential difference between the regular Army and the Bersaglieri in World War II. In other armies in different periods of Italian history, of course, they had different uniforms, and they were, highly specialized for specific purposes and such. But for World War II, you saw the Bersaglieri performing the similar actions to regular Army all the time. So that said, don't be surprised that the bodies are going to be the same. That said, there are new components in this kit. It's not just a head swap. There's more. There are For example, all of the rifles, the M9141 rifles from the original Army and Black Shirt box are gone. They were replaced by carbines. It's very important because given that the Bersaglieri were mobile, either on motorbikes or in transport trucks or whatever, they're always typically at a full sprint when they were on the move, as was part of their training, and you typically don't want to be lugging around a very heavy rifle while you're doing that. So they were issued carbines as a way to kind of make them more mobile as a force. And so the typical the typical carbine that you see them using is the Moschetto, the cavalry carbine, that with the with the foldable bayonet underneath. And sometimes you also do see them with other types of carbines, like the M38 Carcano as well. And Warlord did a great job. They did the research, and that is included in this kit, which is awesome. So we'll take a look at the sprue in more detail here in a second. And now this is what I was talking about with the leaflet. These collar flashes here, the red flames with the star, this is the correct orientation. So if you're going to be using the collar flashes on the, let me just pull this out here so you can look. If you're going to be using the collar flashes on the decal sheet, just keep in mind that you want to use them with the top of the card down. This is the correct orientation for those collar flashes. It's the only oopsie that I see on the decal sheet. Everything else is correct. You've got the correct helmet insignia here for the Bersaglieri. You have the correct rank structure here for the Bersaglieri as well. They're basically regular army, so that they have very similar ranks to what the Army in Black Shirt had. So, and also, if you're curious about the ranking structure, it is right here, and it is correct as well. So you can't go wrong with going after the leaflet. This is what you want to look at. It's the holy Bible of this kit, if you will. Also, some very basic painting tutorials on the bottom here. Just, these are the colors that the Warlord in-house painters used, and they do look great. I love that they included the canvas, the information, the Jaco Evento here. This is very important. The pullover windbreaker, you see this in a lot of photographs of Bersaglieri, especially those on motorbikes. They just happen to, that was like a really common kind of pullover to wear, so it's very cool. And I'm glad that they made this correction about the white lacing painted on the side, because, and if you'll notice that it's correctly sculpted on the Bersaglieri support teams, the HQ especially. If you look at some of those guys wearing the pullover windbreaker, they have the actual lacing sculpted on the side. It's the one thing that's missing on the pullovers that are in the kit here. There's no lacing on the side. I think it was just an oversight on the sculptor, and maybe someone didn't know that, but it just goes on the side here, and it's really easy to paint those lines in there, and then you got yourself a historically accurate pullover windbreaker. So that's a cool little feature as well. Have a little information here on the Beretta M38A. There are 3 of them included in this kit, which is very, very nice. So if you really wanted to, you could take a Bersaglieri sprue, swap out the heads for the regular army sprue, and have yourself a squad of Carabinieri, because the Carabinieri had, I think they can take 3 SMGs. So tip for you right there. And then a little bit about where the officer wore his rank insignia. So this is really, really cool. Very, very quick, very informative leaflet, as always, from Warlord Games. All right, so let's take a look at the sprues themselves. I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, actually, it looks like it's pretty okay. Hopefully you guys can see this all right. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about here, if you can't quite see it, keep in mind Warlord Games has a close-up of their sprue on a white background, so you can zoom in and really get an idea of what we're talking about here. So the main features that are the same on this kit and the Army and Black Shirt kit. It's the bodies here, okay? It is the two LMGs, the the Beretta LMGs, the loader backpack. I believe this is the same SMG from the Army and Black Shirts box. And I believe that this is the same Carcano Cavalry carbine that's in the Army and Black Shirts box as well. And then you have the gas mask bags here. Now, a couple of people, I've seen comments on various social media platforms asking why there are no SMG pouches included in these plastic sets. That's because if you look at any image from the Italian Army, Bersaglieri, Alpini, whatever, prior to the armistice in 1943, you don't see very many, if any, Italian SMG pouches. They just weren't really made in any large number. Those that were made went to very specialized forces. Sometimes you see them on paratroopers, for example. What they did is they would take, if they had enough, sometimes keep in mind that the Italian Army was not well supplied in the Western Desert or in Russia, and they had to make do with what they had. If they had enough ammo that they actually needed to carry extra magazines, they would shove them either in their pockets, which are everywhere on their uniforms, and if all else failed, if they couldn't get to their pockets, they would stick them in their gas mask bags. So they take out the gas masks because they weren't really useful in World War II, especially not on any of the fronts that the Italians saw, and they would just shove as much ammo as they could find into them, and that would be what they would use. And you can actually kind of see this in some of the images, especially in the Western Desert, in any sort of action shot. If you look closely, you can kind of see bulges in their pockets where there's ammo just shoved in there for either SMGs or whatever. You hardly ever see anyone with an SMG with ammo pouches for those SMG mags. It just doesn't exist. So yeah, that's probably why there's so many gas mask bags. Again, not backpacks. They have extra goggles on here, which is very useful. The Bersaglieri were known for having goggles either from being on motorbikes or just being mobile or protection from the desert or whatever. You also have, I think, two more what are these? Bandoliers. Now, it's important to keep in mind that Italian forces typically had two pouches for their ammo. You see them on the belts here. And each one of these pouches holds 6 M-block clips of 6 rounds each. So they needed more ammo because obviously that's not going to be enough to really hold down if you need to. So these bandoliers would come in handy. They held an extra, each bandolier pouch contained 2 additional pouches, which contained 1 M-block clip each. So they could carry up to 4 more M-block clips of 6 rounds each. So that's why they're present. And you see a lot of typically Bersaglieri with more ammo on them, especially if they're being mobile, just so that they have the option to be a more versatile force if needed. So also really, really cool that they have included the fighting knives down here on the bottom. And just so that we're clear, these are not fighting knives. These are bayonets for the M38 carbine that's on here. So, for example, this thing right here is an M38 carbine. That's an M38 carbine. And that's an M38 carbine. So there's a couple M38 carbines on here, and these just go with those. So if you're going to equip any of your soldiers with an M38 carbine versus the cavalry carbine, just make sure that you give them this bayonet if you want to give them that option. Right, so those are some of the really cool features of this, and of course the helmets can't, let me just zoom in on that because I just think these are the coolest sculpts ever. Let me just make sure it's coming in. You guys can see that, all right? All right, if for some reason it's still not coming in clear or whatever, let me see if I can move I can just do this. Hey, look at this. Look at me thinking. All right, hold on. Because I would like for you guys to be able to actually see what I'm seeing here. There we go. Now they're clear. So one of the really cool things about the sculpts on this is that there's kind of a jauntiness to the helmets. And you see that a lot. If you look at Bersaglieri in photographs, one of the things that stands out is that helmet tilt, that just attitude that they have. It's so Italian. And it's really, really cool that it's replicated here. The head tilt, the helmet tilt is just spot on. The same thing with the Bersaglieri heads and the M33 steel helmets here. So you can see they also have some head tilt going on and up here as well. And then here are your two Bersaglieri fezzes. These are again going to be red, not black. And you get your two kind of bustina heads. These are the off-duty caps, essentially. You don't typically see regular troops wearing the bustina. Usually you're going to see officers wearing this. So if you're going to build any officers for this from the set, just give them the bustina, or you can give them a helmet. They didn't typically wear fezzes as a sign of their rank. They wore bustina, but everyone else around them wore fezzes or helmets. It's very, very obvious if you look at pictures of Bersaglieri officers. They're always wearing the bustina, not typical soldiers. So very, very cool. I love that they included that little detail there. So overall, I just gotta say, like, I'm so impressed by the sculpts on this set. Everything about this set is just leaps and bounds superior to anything else that's currently on the market. Historical accuracy is up there. I mean, again, with the minor things that I talked about earlier, the missing laces on the pullovers, you know, that's really the one inaccuracy on here that's really catching my eye. Everything else looks really, really good. So again, I have to give it a really good review. I think that these are probably the best Italians on the market today. I don't think you're going to beat this. I don't think there's anything currently out there that comes close. You know, I know that I've said it before, but it's really hard to find a good representation of Italian troops in World War II. I mean, people don't take them seriously normally. I mean, if you want to get before these, if you wanted to get a good Italian set, you'd have two options. You'd have Warlord Games medals, which were very, very old. I think Warlord acquired them from a company that went out of business originally, which is why they even had them. And of course, Empress. Empress has a very decent supply of Italians as well. Although they're early Italians, they're not really World War II Italians. They're mainly like the Horn of Africa / colonial wars that Italy had in the early to mid 30s before World War II even kind of got kicked off. So it's really, it was a really sad state of affairs for anyone who wanted to play Italians. Now we have Italians, and they're really, really good. And I would say, you know, now we have two different companies making plastics for Italians, but leaps and bounds, Warlord Games is just knocking it out of the park. And I don't think you're going to find a company anywhere near comes close in terms of historical accuracy, detail the sculpts, paintability. Hands down, I think that these are just top tier. So anyway, that's my unboxing review. Thanks for sticking it out for about 20 minutes. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much in this one. I am going to do a video comparing the Warlord Games Atlantic Italians and the Warlord Games Italians Bersaglieri specifically, because my last video that I did, people seemed to think that I rambled too much, but you have to kind of do that when you're talking about this sort of thing, because the last thing you want is for someone to think that you're just hating on a company for no reason. It's just not, you know, it's a real problem these days. And I really wanted to make sure everyone understood my position, that it was not that I was coming down against WGA. It was just such a massive quality difference that I had to really explain it. So anyway, that's enough for me. You've heard me talk about that before. That video is going to be coming out. I have painting tutorials coming out. I've got other unboxing videos coming out. So please subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it, and I will catch you all later. Bye.